You are watching Anachronology.
Category 3, baby.
Welcome back to Category 3. Rounding out the categories for 1990, we have tech. Look at this. Look at this cyberpunk broad.
That's dope, man.
Does she have a coffee?
I don't know. This again. This is, I don't know what this is. This is also all courtesy of AI Producer. Yeah. Shout out to AI Producer. Absolutely crushing it with everything from the writing to the images. Crushing it. By the way.
And I mean, this is probably like this. Actually, this image is like 1990 accurate of what, let's say, like what 2023, like what, yeah, like 2023, like what, remember like when 20, the year 2000 seems so far away, right? Like, this is actually pretty representative of, you're gonna be able to like drink your Dunkin' Donuts and just have like, wear your computer.
I felt like we were just like, oh, this is going to be like in 5 years, we're just going to be like plugged in and we're going to be wearing sweet headsets and stuff. And then the Matrix came out like years later and just kind of validated, like, see, everybody's thinking this will be the gradual procession of things, progression. We're just going to keep moving toward being plugged into big machines.
Well, because isn't like the Neuralink, right? Aren't they trying to put like chips in people's freaking brains? So I mean, it's
already doing it, like monkeys and all kinds of stuff. I mean, again, this was 1990 was an interesting time. And I think we mentioned this prior before we came to 1990, was just the idea of like, it was the birth of the World Wide Web. We were opening a door, we were opening Pandora's box, and we were seeing things we had never seen before. But when we look back on it, it just looks hella terrible. It looks like weird, creepy shit like this. I mean, this was basically the early iteration of what we thought the internet was going to be, like these people right here.
Yeah, but to be fair, like I would argue that this representation right here, this is like the internet, like this is like the Rolls Royce of 1990 internet. Like this is like these like 3D model type, like
that's
characters.
True. Yeah,
this is like the Star Wars, like Lucas Arts, Buco bucks went into getting this to look like this in 1990.
Right.
I guarantee.
You're right. This right here was like, this was probably took about 100 people made this, working around the clock. There were computers and hard drives the size of pure buildings, rendering these out in render farms just to get these people right here. And they didn't even do anything. They didn't even talk. They just like moved their arms very slowly and creepily.
Yeah, that was it. This quote you got. This quote, I think, does a good job of kind of like framing it. It says, the browser in combination with various web protocols allowed access to the web from a wide variety of operating systems and devices. It allowed untrained users to click and browse from website to website. But even before there were public websites, there needed to be a browser. So once again, like we kind of touched on the show, the internet that everyone is on all the time was nothing like it now. Like the shit that we were talking about in 1990 was dial-up modem. Do you guys even know what a dial-up modem is? Or who's listening to this, if you're young, like you have to use like a landline phone, which I even doubt you have in your house, to plug into your computer, plug it into the wall, to then use your AT&T phone line to freaking call up. It sounds like you were killing a robot to get on the internet, and even then, you would be lucky to come across a website that looked this baller in 1990.
To be like to have like full color and to look as like, I guess, as like futuristic as this. Let's see if we can pull up. Okay, perfect. So here, this right here, this would be a great example of like just what a web page looked like. And what it just looks absolutely awful. It's got super primitive text. It's just got like the little top bar up there with the hyperlinks. This is as, I guess, design and graphically orientated as I would say most websites were in the real early 90s, when, like Clay said, when you could get on to the very minimal dial-up network and surf the 20-something web pages that you could click off of from AOL homepage or something. Look at this thing.
Because I think also, if memory serves me, I want to say like a big part of the like invention of the internet was for like scientists to share information
Mm-hmm.
with each other. So it's like, of course, some scientists, they're just going to care about the data, that they're like, I need to get
Yes.
this data conveniently and quickly from one place to another. So once you take out like the eggheads who are actually trying to like use this tool for some good to benefit the work they're doing, and then you get all the yahoos. Once it became
It
available
got
to,
weird.
it gets weird real quick.
Oh, here's
Oh,
another one. Now we're moving into a level of a little more sophistication. And then there were things where like, oh wow, there's a sidebar and there's color and there's some kind of cool looking graphics. And this again, this is back when there was not GPS. There were still people that went on vacation with massive atlases and maps in
oh
their
yeah.
cars. And this was this whole other way of just like going and using the again primitive internet to print out your directions. And I can remember many a family vacations of just like stapled pieces of paper of like direction by direction turns. It was a freaking nightmare to travel to back
I
then.
don't even know if MapQuest exists anymore. And it says
I
explore the
doubt it.
world with the #1 consumer travel site.
Oh
That's
my
like
god.
that. Like MapQuest was the world's #1. That could just be a lie that they're saying that. I was probably the only consumer travel site. This is
Oh, it had
NASA's.
it had to have been. And here's NASA. So here's NASA, the people that took us to the freaking moon. This was their homepage in that era. And my God, does that thing look
It looks
honestly
like
way
that.
better than the other way. I would hope that
It,
NASA's website looked a little cooler in that time too.
like yeah, it's like you can tell they have like this logo here in this the screen
What
that we're
is
showing. It's the one page. This must be their splash page, and they actually didn't do like a bad job. They have like their
Yeah, it's not
graphic is like
bad.
embossed. It's not bad. I mean, it still looks like when a video game needed to make a website, like for like just a generic
Yeah,
like
yes.
website and a video game, but this is real life. Like it doesn't look like, especially the company as big as freaking NASA, it doesn't look like a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar company owns this. This is like their website.
It's their website. And this was it. This is what started to happen is once the internet got big, it opened up and then everybody, it was like storefronts. So it was like, hey, big companies, you better get your presence out there and it better look freaking cool. Oh, here's a great example too. This is, of course, the probably beginning of the end. It was when news cycles just exploded onto the internet. Nobody was more famous in that 90s era than the Juice. Here's
Oh man, don't
obviously
squeeze
the
them.
entire OJ apparently trial was put on some kind of freaking HTML page. Wow.
This is
The OJ
unbelievable.
Simpson main page on CNN.com. This is awesome. I love the like OJ Simpson freaking icon too.
Oh
It's
man,
brilliant.
this is they've got like I kind of feel bad for the I mean like the victims are just like silhouettes. The murder,
Jesus.
I noticed that they just have like a
Wow.
magnifying glass, but not a fucking knife that he stabbed them to death with. That would have been a little more on brand. But dude, yeah, this is like, I mean, this is actually, I want to say like ahead of its time, but dude,
Yeah, it
this is a
is.
straight dude. This is is this CNN's page? No, oh my
Yeah,
god,
I
or
think
is this
this
like
this does look like it, or it could. Who knows? Back in the day too, because that was the other thing is once people could code HTML, everybody remember there was just so many of
yes.
these kinds of like starter web pages that people made. It could be
Yeah, because
somebody's.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because this definitely
Pretty
like
terrible.
but it's also it's like this is like a little ahead of its time where there is this is like Wikipedia before Wikipedia, like real time Wikipedia of.
Wow,
I mean, there's always a trial of the century, but dude, this is a straight up like a play by play of a court case in 1990 that's everyone was
brilliant.
watching on TV,
Yeah,
and it had its own webpage.
played out in
That's got to be
magnificent
a first.
HTML.
It has to be a first.
Oh, dude, I remember. Okay, I remember when this happened. I remember PizzaNet. I remember when this happened, and this was probably, again, we're talking about brands getting their stuff out there on the internet at that early stage. But this was basically like the first attempt at trying to order a pizza online, and it was an
I
absolute
remember this.
nightmare. It was a freaking nightmare, and it never ever worked. But again, Pizza Hut was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna make PizzaNet. PizzaNet's gonna change the world." It did not. Spoiler: change the world. But look at this one. I mean, this is all grayscale. Like nobody really tried to make this cool. If you would like to order a pizza to be delivered.
So now I wonder, right? It's like, I mean, I'm sure they didn't think too hard about this. Like, how much into the coding, right? Like, if this is just a very generic, it says name, a street address, with your phone number. So if you are not in like a delivery area, right? Like, or your Pizza Hut isn't like connected to the internet. I mean, there's so many fucking Pizza Huts, and there wasn't the internet everywhere, even in 1990, right? Like, there wasn't the internet
Yeah, you're
everywhere.
right.
So,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
how like did you need to live like literally in I don't know where, like somewhere around where Pizza Hut is headquartered, where there would be 10-mile radius where maybe 10 people have fucking the internet and maybe 2 of those people eat at Pizza Hut? Like, this seemed
You're
like
right.
this seemed like a bad idea from the start.
It was, yeah, and it was like you said, it was very just like inclusive to if you lived in a big metropolitan area where you could do that. That's just this was not an option to many people, but it just
Dude,
goes, it just shows the like the super rudimentary means of the internet back then. Just people were, you just wanted to be on the internet, so it just didn't matter.
And I think one thing too that we are
Oof.
not we should also be mentioning too is like the speed at which these
Ugh.
web pages would load would
Ugh.
be brutal.
Brutal.
So you
Like
could
every
probably like
picture had to load individually on a website.
you could probably walk to Pizza Hut, eat a pizza, and walk back before
Yeah.
you actually completed an
Oh, yeah.
order to go through with using the internet.
And that's
Yeah, this
that's absolutely true. And then obviously the other like real struggle as a young adolescent boy was once porn got big on the internet,
oh yeah.
you just waited for porn to load. You waited for a picture of a boob that would take about 5 minutes to fully just load. So it's just like you're in it for the long game. You are in it for the long game, believe me. Oh, here we go. Yahoo. Now, Yahoo was huge once it kind of became dominant maybe in the mid 90s. That probably came a little after that early caveat. But here shows the evolution of like an HTML homepage on early internet. They were like, we're going to toss some color in there, some sidebar, some links and pictures.
And talk about like being ahead of their
Games.
time. The games. So just seeing all these different games. This is like, it's too bad that touch phones and touch screens and phones and app stores didn't exist, because each one of these games you could probably charge 50 cents for or whatever, like on an app
Mm-hmm.
store. These were all just for
Mm-hmm.
free. You just had to like go on.
You're right.
You have to have the access to get on the internet. But this was a huge cornerstone of early internet, was crappy little games. Like think of like solitaire that comes like stock on your Microsoft back in the day. This is, what do we got here? Addiction, Solitaire, Blackjack, Bridge was a bunch of card games.
Tornado 21. I've never heard of Tornado 21.
Yeah, Gem Drop, Pop and Drop, Puzzle, Qbert, obviously, Rocket Mania, Jewel Quest, Noah's Ark. Yeah, so there's not just card games on here. There's a bunch of shit, but games were huge on the early internet. Huge.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing about it is like all those little places, usually all these little, not even just the games, but surrounding the games, it was all about like chat rooms. Like chatting on the internet was the earliest real big thing, right? So even before like I'm going to go surf the internet, it was like, of course, the invention of AOL Instant Messenger, ICQ,
message boards,
being
message boards and chat rooms.
Talking in those rooms, so for instance, say I'm on the cribbage, playing the cribbage game. Well, you could be talking to all these people that like the cribbage game. Usually everybody's trying to go to another freaking chat room to hook up or something, because that's, of course, once the creepy factor came into it, it was just like game on internet, So it was the sky was the limit for the internet. And here we can show a great example of actually not even just the software. Here's what we were dealing with hardware wise. This was the mystique of 90s, early 90s computing hardware is what you're looking at right here. I mean, look at that shit.
That on the right, there is like the first laptop and an external like 3.5-inch floppy disk drive. I don't know how much info can be stored on a 3.5 floppy. I know it is not a lot. The combined computing power of everything that we're looking at right now what is like the calculator function on your iPhone probably has more computer powering than these fucking things. Like, and they're giant too. Like they're freaking thick boys. These have got some
look
thick
at
boys.
that. And then everything was all like so big. And I mean, look at the towers on that always amazed me about old school PCs too, like on the left, massive towers. And the best part of it is there wasn't much inside the tower. There's like a CD-ROM, which obviously came around way later too, like the better CD-ROMs. But then it was like you said, there's a floppy insert right there, the power buttons. And then there really wasn't much on the back. You'd plug in the keyboard, you'd plug in the monitor, and you'd plug in, like you said, you'd plug in your phone jack to the computer. And it was just like, dude, that was it. But look how big they were. I don't know if they made them big for like heat consolidation, like venting, or they're just massive. I mean, look at, and I can see how heavy that thing probably was too.
I can feel the like the monitor, like that plastic, that like grainy kind of thick plastic. Like I can feel it in my fucking fingers.
It's just crazy how, and over time, everything got slimmer and smaller. And you just said it too. You could probably fit every single thing in that computer on a thumb drive. Everything.
Easily.
And it wouldn't take up any space at all. And you'd still have room. That's how crazy and ridiculous computing was back at that time. So it just goes to show you we have come a very, very long way since 1990. I want to take a look really quick at, I want to see if I can pull up. Let me share the screen here. Speaking of not knowing how to use computers.
It's okay. You're in 2023 tech. If only this was 1990 tech, we'd be able to navigate it. There would only be two things you could do.
Let me go back to us.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, exactly. We could not be doing this show in the guise of 1990.
Standing on the shoulders of giants.
Standing on the shoulders of giants. Oh, here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at some other amazing, some video evidence of our very early on computing in the 1990s. This, of course, is taken from the 1992 movie, The Lawnmower Man. So this goes to show you the kind of conceptual ideas of what the future could be.
I'm in. So that's going into the internet. That's how we used to get on the internet.
Yep. This is what we thought the internet could be. Yeah, this tech was high tech, bro.
This is like 1990 quantum computing.
Look at this. Incredible.
This is the birth of Google.
This is Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm. The reboot adventures take place here in the mainframe.
Yes.
One of the best things about living inside a computer is you can surf the static on your hoverboard if you're good enough. Me and my quasi-logical friends love to drive the logicals nuts.
This is awesome.
Up all the random bytes in the shape of Madonna's butt. It was excellent.
I think Reboot was like a Saturday morning cartoon or something, right?
Yeah,
it was all like the fantasy of cool like people that lived inside of the computer.
It was there was
it looks like shit.
There was citizens who lived in this looks horrible.
And
there were citizens that lived in the computer.
You could find yourself anywhere, and someone could even steal your lips. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think this guy was supposed to be like the protector of the people that lived there.
Bad data.
I love how it says early megabyte, but I don't feel the actual version that went on television was much better than this.
It definitely looked way better.
Oh,
but they were still all like
it looks like garbage.
Like, the way they moved was awful. Yeah, this is 1990 promo video one. This is like
okay.
Yeah, that's what they think they're gonna do, but I think it's extremely unlikely. See ya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Show and they'll give me my lips back.
Yeah, that was absolute trash. Okay, so what's this? This says the early days of computer shopping. Okay, so here we go. This is some like if you went to service merchandise. There we go. I'll throw it out there. Early 90s, like department store. Here's what you would be buying.
And you put stuff with it. Absolutely. Oh, I see. This is it here. Comes with a 160 meg hard drive and
160 meg hard drive. It comes with.
You're speaking Greek to that guy. He doesn't know what any of that means.
And a laser printer. She wants a laser printer. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the laser printer isn't Macintosh. You can get a Macintosh laser printer. Sure. It's called the.
Wow.
Okay. These guys. These guys trying to strong arm the computer guy.
$1,900 just for this. Comes with a mouse and keyboard.
Look at those two TVs too.
Printer, the keyboard. Oh, it comes with a keyboard. And I got to buy the printer. And
this guy's furious.
How much is a laser printer then? They're around $7.99.
What is this confound internet you speak of?
Is this better? This is $19.99. This is well, better. You know, it has a faster
Holy moly, man! That price tag was $1979, so almost $2,000 for that right there. I remember that brand NEC too. They made like a lot of monitors and stuff, but just look at that shit, man! It was so clunky and boxy and heavy.
And this dude looks like he knows it's not worth it to this guy too.
On the internet, cyberspace,
oh yeah.
Sex-free. Hello, virtual reality.
Oh, I love this.
Interactive appetite, searching for a website, a window to the world, got to get online. Take
a
spin, now you're in with the techno set. You're going surfing on the internet.
Oh, the kid's guide, huh? Oh, the Jameson family.
Hey there, it's us again.
Hi.
This is my brother Peter, mom and dad, and I'm Dasha. Today,
Dasha.
We're going to be showing our friends, Andrew and Lisa, the basics of the internet, and we thought you might want to come along.
It'll be cool.
Now, here's a little background. When we installed internet access on our computer, I got the whole family involved.
It's true. Everybody has.
I caught my husband looking at some weird stuff.
Work, but it was
This seems a little nefarious.
Now that
the Jamesons don't seem all
I'd
happy.
rather be on my computer than doing just about anything.
It's really cool.
The internet gave us a whole world of exciting new possibilities.
I bet it did,
so
you little creep.
This is a story of how it changed our lives. Maybe it will yours too.
Okay.
The Kid's Guide to the Internet.
Take a spin, now you're in with
Wow, they really went hard on this public service announcement for the internet. I don't know, but that was it. It was just like buttoned up white people, you know, because at that point, I mean, not to be classist or anything, but it just felt like the internet wasn't as widely available to people. Like you said, you either knew somebody that was like wealthy enough to have a computer. I felt like your parents were educators, right? So you probably saw a computer early on in your life.
Yeah, but dude, we had I remember we had like an Apple IIe. Like we had that for the longest time. And then it wasn't until I'm trying to remember like what grade I was in when there was some deal where we got like an old Macintosh before like Steve Jobs made Apple cool. It was like an old before iMac and shit. But I remember it was like I was like, oh, cool, we're getting a computer, but it was still like the crappy Apple. Like it wasn't even a good one. Like the screen had color because the first one we had was like the broccoli green, the Apple IIe and everything. But
I can see that in my mind right now. I can see with that exact computer.
It probably wasn't until like the late 90s where we actually got like a decent computer. Like I think
hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's episode,
this
it is time to revisit.
So what you were saying is true. I don't think I remember we got our first like family computer, dude. It was probably like 96. My dad actually let us get a computer, and it didn't look like this, but it had the same feel. It was just like really crappy, and it was just I felt like I was just part of this exclusive club to get in and have actually a home computer. Up until then, it was like, I'll use the one at school. I'll go to my friend's house whose parents were cool enough to buy him his own computer. You know, like I did not have that luxury.
I remember it had to have been the late 90s because we had like it came with a CD, like, oh God, was it Coiler's Encyclopedia? But I remember being blown away because there was like the video files, there was only like they can only be like 10 seconds long. So there'd be like 10 seconds of like JFK talking. Then there's like, 10 seconds of the man on the moon. Then there's like 10 seconds of some dude in Vietnam getting wasted. Like, but it was like I remember being like blown away that I was like had a CD drive and could watch like video on my computer.
What were they called? Like the Britannica. It was like a collection. The Encyclopedia Britannica or some shit like that.
Because mine was, because ours was like the Apple, and Apple, like Britannica didn't have like, or Apple didn't want to get the rights to like pay Britannica.
They did the Apple version of it.
Coilers, yes, it was Coilers, like Collier. It was like Coilers Encyclopedia.
I love it. So this is apparently a booting up and exploring.
Visit the 90s mystery custom built PC. If you guys missed the last video, just a little recap here. This machine was very generously donated to me by a viewer who goes by the name The Desert Lad. Thank you very much once again.
He's lying. He found it in a dumpster.
This was a machine from the 1980s. It turned out to be a mid-90s Cyrix 6X86 custom built PC which is still super
And
awesome.
she is
Now,
a
in the
beauty.
original video, I was not able to fully
It
boot
looks
this
all like
thing up
like
because
cigarette
I did
stained
not
and
have
just
an
gross.
AT-based
Yeah, that
keyboard,
plastic,
because
like
yes,
there's
the
something in that
It
chemical
does.
making that
here
plastic. It
is
turns
an
yellow after like 10 years.
motherboard, and
You're right. It like
unfortunately, we had
oxidizes
to
and
end
turns
it there. But I
gross.
did say that I was going to order one of these right here, an AT
Oh.
to PS2 adapter, and it came in finally. So we're going to be able to power this thing on today. Get
Wherever
past
he
that
ordered that
keyboard
from, they're like,
Oh.
you need a what?
on the
A what
hard drive. I'm
adapter?
hoping there's something on
Look
here
at the
really
big
cool to
switch on the
as an
front of
OS
it too.
install. I'm going to guess Windows.
You know, of course, the 95 was one of the most famous ones to come out. Another thing to look at with these
95.
computers is like this was way before obviously Apple got in the game when they started to say we're going to make computers look cool. Like computers just didn't look cool in the 90s. Look at them; they just look boxy and just big clunky buttons. Like it's just not. There's no aesthetic. Like you wouldn't be like putting it on your workstation and making sure people see it. It just they were hidden underneath the computer desk because they just look like total crap.
And I mean, and you can tell like even just how out of place the monitor is. Like even the
Yeah.
monitor this guy has is completely out of place.
We'll install something on it because, well,
It
that's
is.
what we do around these parts. Before we get to that, though, I do want to highlight
Got an
one
8
very
times
important
CD
thing
drive.
that a couple of you guys pointed out in the original video, and that is that the
Why don't you
graphics
fire
card,
this
the
up for me,
original
dog?
is
Let's
supposed
see.
to say. So let's just browse around here. First thing I want to do is change the desktop
Oh my
wallpaper.
God.
So we
Okay,
got-
yeah,
it looks
Jesus.
like
Wow.
Oh yeah, these are like non-standard wallpapers. Oh my
Look
gosh.
at how
What is
boxy
this?
and old that looks.
What the, what
Yeah, and even this is
Hey,
probably like
well,
whatever this
I
computer.
think this is
This
somebody's
is probably
name.
like this is definitely better than
Yeah,
the
there's
first
a bunch
computer that we
of-
had.
there's a
Like this
bunch
is a
of
pretty good
wallpapers
computer for like 1990.
Yeah, I mean,
This is-
well,
or-
95, yeah,
well,
90,
95, yeah,
95 at that
obviously,
point. At
95.
that point, everything started to really kind of get better, you know, because like I said, I remember when we got ours, I want to say it came like maybe custom that you could get it installed with Windows 95, which was hot, and everybody used that for the foreseeable future until what was the next one? It was like the real big, was it 98? Windows 98?
Windows 98.
Yeah, and then that was super cool, and then everybody used that. But we just made something out of nothing at that time, and I think that was an interesting what ifs. Oh, what if, you know, what could this be? But then I think everybody just realized over time, like we're all going to be on here eventually, and like you said today, it's in our pockets, on our phones, it's everywhere. It's just like, dude, this was the start. This was the shotgun start to the internet is everything. And it started like that in some crappy little computer on a Pizza Hut, pizza.net.
Dude, I wonder.
It started
I wonder
there.
too, like there's got to be people who lost, like there had to have been people who like they saw the potential of the internet and they're like, oh, I've got this really great idea, and then they just like the technology wasn't there to like catch up with their idea or like to be able to like implement their idea. There had to have been some people who just like lost their fucking shirt or like lost a like bunch of money like on like, oh, I believe in this, I believe, but they just didn't have like the infrastructure, the tech to make their idea to come to fruition. Because even what's his dick, Bezos, I mean, it wasn't like the first iteration of Amazon failed, you know what I mean? Like I think the first thing like it failed, and he needed like a 300 grand from his grandparents or something to like keep it afloat. So you know that there was somebody back in 1990 who like had, I believe in the internet, I'm gonna put all my money in this. They're like, the bank is coming to take your house and your wife's divorcing you and you're gonna drink yourself to death because you fucking you got caught up in the internet.
You put it all on the wrong number, my friend.
Yeah.
But it is true. I mean, then there's the stories of the people that there were incredible gambles, and it was all about timing. And the timing for some of these things were just monumental. And then it was just like, obviously, the birth of e-commerce and just like everything changed. But everything started where it was almost laughable. Like in that stage in the 90s, it was like science fiction-y. It was just like it was like the picture of the woman that we saw on the front cover of tech, where it's just like big headsets. Oh, we're going to be all plugged into machines in 10 years. And it's been slow to roll, but tech has exploded. But that's some 90s tech for you, everybody. That's what you missed out on if you did not live through that, the glorious 90s tech revolution that was whatever the hell that was.
You just hear the startup, the modem dial up. I could just like clear as day. I
Me
can hear it
too.
in my head.
Yeah, me too. It's actually, you know, I think I might have it on here. Let me see if I got it as a sound bite. If I do, I'll play it. I want to say I had it. I had it at one point. It was something I had on here. Let me see. Because it is a very distinguishable sound. It is. Here it is. Here we go. That was it. That's how it started. I'll play it one more time. And that was the sound. And the best part was it took over your home phone line. So if you picked up the phone, that's what you heard. I'm going to call my friend. And you were interrupting somebody's precious internet. I can't tell you how many times I'd be screaming up to my mom, or someone would be screaming up to somebody else that picked up the freaking phone. You're ruining this.
I'm on the internet. Don't pick up the phone.
Yes.
And then you were. I was going to say, you were wealthy if you had a second phone line just for the internet.
Yeah, exactly. And I had some friends that were cool and they had the second phone line. I was not in that.
Never had the second phone line.
Nope, never did. All right. Well, that's category 3. We made it through live. We are going to segment it. We have a segment to go off of this glorious category. AI producer has conjured us up a fun little segment. One that we like to call What Came First? Because we're going to decide what did come first. It's kind of like we take something from today and we compare it to then. So we can kind of decide, what did come first? And we're going to be talking about, obviously, with the caveat of the Switch, which is super sweet. I have a Switch. I really enjoy it. It's obviously a cool release from Nintendo. It's been out for, how long has it been out now? Several years, really. This has been their flagship.
Yeah, at least 4 years, I think. At least 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, and they've come out with some really sweet stuff. To know, obviously, Zelda's been the hot talk of the town. I know Tears of the Kingdom was great. Breath of the Wild before that. Just really, obviously, they're taking a lot of Nintendo properties and they're absolutely whooping it. I've heard
new Mario.
Wonder. And it's cool. I think Nintendo does a really good job of keeping things like they keep the people that grew up with Nintendo happy, but then they introduce it to these new generations too. So you still get some side scroller stuff, but it's all big and bold and colorful and crazy. And they do a good job of reinventing all their properties really well. So that's kind of the thing about Nintendo. But I think what people don't understand is it really didn't start with Switch. Really, the birth of it all was with this amazing product right here, which was the Game Boy. Nintendo Game Boy came out in 1990 and blew everybody's collective minds. Like this guy, like this lady right here, or guy. What is even happening in that picture?
It says Game Boy, more fun than a ferret down your trousers.
Wow.
But I don't know why. I don't know why this kid has a ferret. 2, why he's putting it down his trousers, or 3, why he's putting a ferret down his trousers while he's playing Game Boy. You would think you'd want to not multitask so much, especially if you got a wild animal down your crotch.
It is going to town on his junk, but he's not even caring because the Game Boy is so immersive and fun. And there's a good look at what the Game Boy was back there. It was a green and black colored screen. Didn't get any better than that. Burning your eyes out on those pixels. And then the offerings, obviously, where I think Tetris came loaded in it, right? That came with the Game Boy.
I believe that's stock.
And then there was a Mario game, right?
I was gonna say wasn't it like Mario? Was it Mario Land or something where it was?
Here's another good look at it. There was a Paperboy, and I think you're right. I think it was. You're right. It was Mario Land. I don't even think it was like Mario World or whatever, or Super Mario.
I think there was a Metroid. Was an early one. I think because that was also like a flagship for NES. But so the screen on this thing too, like not even the color, the size of the screen is what?
It's so small.
Is it like 2 inches by 2 inches? Like it is. Like I'm looking at my phone right now. Like it is.
You're right.
It's. I think like the width of my phone. Like the width of my phone is like
wider. Look at a phone
than
screen. It was like half of that. Like the bottom of your phone screen was about it. Maybe even less than that was what you were playing with.
It might even be like a little less. And there was no backlight.
No backlight. And you think about even just holding your phone like this in your hand. The Game Boy was a little bit wider, but probably smaller, compactor. It was really small.
And imagine, what did it take? Like 4 batteries? Did it take 4 AA?
I think so. You're right. It did take batteries. This was way before the caveat of I'm going to charge it with my USB and all this other shit. You're right, dude. It was a purely battery based product. And I remember they came out with all kinds of cool shit, like an extender light, the screen that would light up. There was like, they really went hard on Game Boy for many
Speakers,
years.
they had a thing that had like speakers, because it had an audio jack. That's right, it had an audio jack.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this was kind of the big thing. This back in the day, because obviously this is coming off of Nintendo in the late 80s owning shit and being like, yo, this is awesome, the home console. And this was obviously such a big revolution. Unfortunately for Nintendo, they weren't the only game in town, because also in that time period came out the mother effing Game Gear, where Sega was like, I'm going to double down. I'm going to put out a handheld and it's going to be color. Game over.
And I'm trying to think. I think that it wasn't too much more expensive than the Game Boy. I don't think so. It's also like, as far as being a competitor, like you did have to pay a little, like a little bit more. I think I remember, like you did have to. It wasn't like double the price of a Game Boy, but it was a little bit more. But like you said, you get color. You get color.
Yeah, the color was really sweet, and I would say too that, like, I think from a graphical point, it just felt like it was like a mini version of playing the Genesis on a screen, because it was color. So it wasn't like, maybe, I don't know the specs, I don't know if it was exactly the same, but it just felt like the Genesis on a way smaller screen, where the Nintendo Game Boy was just kind of like, it's way above a pocket game, but it's like the Genesis just sung, man. Yeah, here we go. Here's what Sonic looked like on it. You know what I'm saying? Full color. Obviously, another maybe even smaller screen. That looks even smaller than the Game Boy screen.
I don't know.
That's so small, dude. That's like an Apple Watch face.
Yeah, that's what the size of it is. It's the size of an Apple Watch.
God. Dude, it's just so small.
Did they ever come out with like a Game Gear? Did they ever come out with a Game Gear that had 3 buttons, or did they always have the 2? I'm trying to remember if there was like another iteration of the Game Gear, because obviously the Sega controller had the 3 buttons. I was just wondering if they ever made a Game Gear with 3. If there was like a Game
that's an
Gear
interesting question.
Something I can't remember.
I didn't have a Game Gear. I did have a Game Boy. I remember getting a Game Boy for a birthday, and that was super sweet. But I remember a friend had a Game Gear, and I was like, man, that thing is cool, man. That thing was. I remember the
Game Gear being far less of everyone having a lot more Game Boys than people having Game Gears. Man, that's great.
And then obviously the one thing I did love about that time period was how Nintendo and Sega did not hold back. They went hard in the paint after each other and talked a lot of shit. Obviously playing on the color versus non-color fight, but I do remember that pretty vividly. And I always remember back in that time, a lot of the advertisements were in. I remember comic books had a ton of like inlays that were advertisements, and it'd always be like a Game Gear one or a Game Boy one, and they just talked a ton of shit. And I always thought that was really funny. But it does harken back to the question. I mean, Switch is awesome, but you wouldn't have Switch. You wouldn't have any of that shit unless you had Game Boy and Game Gear. Period.
And then now the thing that's out now is also Steam Deck, right? The Steam Deck.
Oh, that's right. I don't know much about Steam Deck. What's the deal with that?
So I know it's Valve's
handheld?
Valve's handheld, but much like obviously the only things that are available on Switch are Nintendo's proprietary. So it's not like Nintendo games can be played on other platforms, but the Steam Deck, anything that is, I believe, on Valve's store or PC, any PC game, you're able to play that on your Steam Deck. But if the Switch is 5 years old or so now, the Steam Deck I think is only like a year or so old, but the advancements to go from a Game Boy to a Game Gear to there was like PlayStation Vita or whatever for a little while there, and then the Switch, which obviously exploded in popularity, and now the Steam Deck. Like, is there going to be like another 5-10 years? Is there going to be like another more souped up handheld portable gaming device? You know what I mean? Like, we've already they keep they've been making them since the 90s, so it seems like they're not going anywhere.
No, they're not. And I mean, I think that now the new step is obviously these VR headsets. It's kind of like, it's like I'll strap it on my head and I'll have like a way bigger picture, really good like 4K image and everything like that. But the travel idea of those earlier devices was just so unique, right? Because it's like if you liked gaming, we are children of the gaming revolution. When we grew up on Nintendo, we grew up even on Atari before that. And this was just like now we can take it anywhere. And they even have now these things where you like strap them onto your phone and they got little controllers on them and stuff. I've seen things like that like because you think about it too, they're also trying to make a run at like gaming on your phone. I mean, kids are playing. My mom plays the Bejeweled game or whatever, like it's crack. So it's here. It's been here.
And to be a child in the backseat of a car going on a vacation or on a school bus going to a field trip, to be the owner of a Game Boy. Oh my God.
You were the coolest kid. Coolest kid.
You're the coolest.
You were owning shit.
Can I play that?
But yeah,
Can I play that?
Oh, dude, absolutely. But yeah, I think that basically I mean, really, so, we would just not have anything cool today if it weren't for those two inventions, Game Gear and the Game Boy. And if you still have one, you're lucky. I'm sure you can buy one now for hundreds of dollars on freaking eBay or whatever.
I thought Nintendo, didn't they put out like an anniversary Game Boy that had like some things like, I can't remember if there was
That's
like a
cool.
one-off, if there was like a limited, I think this might have happened a couple years ago where they did like a run of, or maybe I'm thinking of like a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color or something, but either case, they're still pumping them out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And if you have one, that's awesome, and you can enjoy it. And if you want one, go find it and play it. It's a trip down memory lane for sure.